Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to the A24 project here on the Nerd Party Network. My name is Lee Hutchison and Dallas King and I make our way through the A24 filmography and along the way bring you interviews with the talent involved in front of and behind the camera. Now the SAG strike is over, we can start to bring you interviews again, and today we welcome Carly-Sophia Davies to talk about her unforgettable appearance as Angela in Joanna Hogg's postscript to the Souvenir films The Eternal Daughter. Starring Tilda Swinton in a dual role as daughter and mother who visit a large and mysterious hotel in Wales to work through some of their family baggage. But unfortunately for them, they come into contact with Davies' character as the receptionist for the building, who has a very specific way of dealing with her customers. Thanks so much to Carly-Sophia for joining me, and I hope you too will enjoy this interview. What inspired you to pursue a career in acting?
I initially really liked singing. None of my parents actually have creative careers, but they're both really creative in their own way. My dad sung and played the guitar a lot, and my mum's really into sort of drawing and interior design. But my dad's an actual scaffolder, my mum's a secretary, so they don't do it for a living. So I think the singing was something I was really interested in from the get-go. And then I auditioned for a school play when I was about 14, 15. And it was the first time I sang in front of anybody on my own. And it was Peter Pan. And I got cast as Peter Pan. And it sort of started from there. And then I didn't think it was going to be a career choice because I was quite interested in sort of something academic. And my teachers kind of wanted me to do that when I was at school. And then when I went to college, the day before I was supposed to start the A levels that I was going to do, something in the back of my brain was like, oh, the A block, it's called the A block, where the arts block was in the college. And I was like, I wonder what it would be like to do a performing arts course. And then I just, as a last minute thing, I just completely changed and decided to do a BTEC in performing arts. And a couple of my teachers were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's sort of no safety in that. And I thought, well, I can always come back. And then it sort of started from there. I did that. And then I auditioned for drama school, just I thought, why not? I'll give it a go. And then I got in and I moved to London at 18, and it all sort of started from there, really.
That's incredible. And you're our first ever guest from Wales. After nearly 200 episodes, we finally have Welsh representation on the show.
Yay!
What's the industry like in Wales? Like, as you mentioned, you've gone to London. Is there much of an industry in Wales? I think for many of us in the UK, we think of Wales, we think of Doctor Who, but what's maybe that wider industry like in Wales?
I think it's definitely changing. I think even 3 years ago, it was different. So I know sort of 10, 15 years back, I wasn't doing it then, but I know that there wasn't as many Welsh TV series being made, Welsh plays, Welsh work for me, what I always felt like stayed more in Wales. And when I sort of graduated, I really wanted Welsh work to sort of come out of Wales, not just stay in Wales. There's nothing wrong with it just staying in Wales, but I wanted it to sort of come out of Wales because I wanted Wales to sort of have its moment. And I would say now, actually, there's a lot being made, TV series, really interesting stuff at the moment. There's a lot of focus on Wales and its stories, and it's changing. I would like there to be more, and I would like there to be more. I often find sometimes when there are Welsh stories, it's a little bit more, not always, stereotypical. I'd like there to be more specificity when dealing with Welsh stories, and also why, sometimes I watch a TV series and I'm like, why can't there be a Welsh person in there? Or I imagine you feel like that with Scotland as well. Why can't that character be Welsh? Why can't that character be this? And I think it is changing. So long-winded answer to your question, but I think the Welsh industry is thriving at the moment. And there's some really cool stuff being made. But for me, I felt like I had to move to London for particularly theatre. Yeah, even though there's some great theatres in Wales, I just felt like I wanted to be around the hub of it. But I think now with self-tapes and everything, you can definitely be in Wales and do majority Welsh work, and that be full
You obviously recently starred in The Eternal Daughter. How did that kind of role come around? Because it really landed at a very interesting time for the production of that film.
So I had it through my agent. It wasn't like a stereotypical audition process where you get a scene. It was a conversation over Zoom. It was 4 questions about if I'd had any experience in the hospitality industry, which I had growing up. And then it was sort of if I was interested or had I had any paranormal experiences, and what was my sort of experience with movement. And then I recorded it, sent it off, and then I think 2 weeks later, I met with Joanna over Zoom, and we spoke for over an hour, and she was just brilliant, transparent, really smart, warm, and we really connected. And then I found out 2 days later that I got the job, which was mad because a week later I was on the set filming. Yeah.
When you get those type of questions, what does your mind kind of go to of like, say, experienced a paranormal one? Do you think, I've just led a sort of normal life, I've never seen a ghost or a spectre or something? Or do you think, do I need to sort of embellish an experience I had? How do you kind of approach something like that? Do you think of, or do you overthink it and think it could be a test, or how do you go about it?
That's a really good question. I actually didn't plan the questions because I did a little sneaky peek online when I was auditioning, and I saw that Joanna's films were really improvised, mostly improvised. And I thought that, for me, the questions, I would answer them more truthfully and authentically if I didn't have time for my brain to plan. And with the paranormal question, I didn't have any paranormal experiences until literally, it was very odd, a sort of month before that audition happened. And I had a really weird experience when I was cooking in the kitchen, and I felt like my boyfriend's recently lost a family member that was cooking a lot, and I had a really weird experience whilst I was cooking in the kitchen. So I actually felt like I had something to speak about. But yeah, I think if I hadn't, I maybe would have just said I've not had any paranormal experiences. So I don't know if I would have got the job then, but yeah.
And how familiar were you with Joanna Hogg?
I'd seen The Souvenir, and I loved seeing that, but I hadn't seen a lot of her previous work. I've seen it now since working with her, but I was familiar, but not to sort of, hadn't seen everything. But yeah.
The film's obviously like a kind of postscript to the Souvenir movies, which was such a surprise to me when I was watching the films for the first time. Obviously, you'd watched it beforehand. Was it something like that you're watching, and you go, oh, it's going to be very much like this, or were you quite surprised at the turn they took with The Eternal Daughter?
So I actually didn't know what I was in until I watched the film at Venice Film Festival last year, because Joanna does a story document, and she showed that story document to Tilda and not to myself. Intentionally, she chooses who she's working with and what to show them and what not to show them, because it sort of will help their creative process. And I didn't see it, so I didn't know. All I saw was Tilda walking around in one moment looking like Tilda, and then the next moment looking like Tilda plus 20 years. And half the time I was talking to an empty chair and half the time I wasn't. So I just thought, okay, well, there's a mother and daughter relationship going on here. But other than that, I didn't really know the specifics of it. So I've seen the film 3 times now. And now I feel like, I saw it yesterday, actually. I took my friends to go and watch it. And it was the first time I felt like I've seen it objectively, and that I can actually see it as a film. And I'm starting to really sort of, it's really starting to make a lot of sense to me, in the sense I'm going, okay, and this means this, and I'm still sitting with me now, and only now can I have that experience, because before I just couldn't, because it was too overwhelming seeing it.
I've always been fascinated by that. We had some guests on before that worked on The Souvenir, and it would be like, this person gets a script, this doesn't. And I've always wondered what it must be like for someone like yourself, of like, how do I prepare for tomorrow's scenes, or what approach do I take? And some people like knowing nothing that's going on outside of the scene. How does that sort of sit with you?
I really like it. I think it's a really organic way of, and truthful way of working in because you're navigating in life. Like, I don't almost know what question you're going to ask me, right? So it's the same thing whilst working, and there's a kind of liveness and you're being very instinctive and playful. And I don't think scripts are great, but I don't think you can get that in the same way. I really liked it. Don't get me wrong, because Joanna shoots chronologically. The first scene that we did, and it was my first time being on a set as well, that was a bit of a here we go. Like, it's like jumping off a cliff moment. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
And was it quite nervous, or a really rare and exciting opportunity to improvise so much? We think of it so much of like, that's comedy films and TV, as opposed to something quite unique like this to get that kind of opportunity.
I really liked it. I loved getting the chance to improvise. Yeah, I felt like I discovered lots and I couldn't plan. And it's really shaped me. With the way that I approach a script now, I try not to. There's a fine line, I think, between too much work on it or not enough work on it. And working with Joanna has really shaped me in that way. I really loved it.
You obviously had quite a tight turnaround from being cast to turning up in Wales for this film. How did you sort of prepare for shooting this film? And was there sort of any kind of, I guess, anxiety at the time, because it was deep in kind of COVID lockdown that you were shooting this film? Was there any worries, or was this just like, I'm so excited to be working again?
I think at that point, I'd unfortunately had COVID twice. So I was hopeful that it wouldn't come for me again anytime soon. It was stressful, not in the sense that I didn't love every moment of it. It was stressful that I didn't want to give anybody else COVID. And if, there was definitely an anxiety about, because we were also sort of close together, even though we were wearing the masks and the things like that, and trying to be cautious and sanitizing our hands. There was definitely an anxiety that if I did get COVID, or if anybody got COVID, the entire production would have to shut down. So I was excited, but I also felt like I didn't get the full on-set experience, because my first time on a set was working under such strict COVID protocols. But yeah, I did. Overall, I still, of course, loved it and had a ball.
I like to think in my head that you all got to stay in that hotel, just in your own separate rooms. Where were you based while you were kind of shooting it?
So Joanna was staying in the hotel. Which it was a very creepy place. I was staying about 5-10 minutes away in a cottage in the middle of nowhere, which was quite a terrifying experience in and of itself. I think the second AD was staying in her caravan outside the house. People were dotted all over. Tilda was just around the corner, I think about 10 minutes away. A lot of the crew did stay in the house. Because it was such a massive house, they all stayed there. But I'm very grateful not to have stayed there, because I did find it incredibly, incredibly intimidating and creepy.
And what was that kind of hotel like to turn up and work in? Did it sort of help influence your performance in the atmosphere as well as we saw in the film?
I think probably subconsciously, yeah. I think we're all affected by, like, as Joanna says, rooms and buildings and spaces that we occupy on a level, I think, that we don't really sometimes take in. But yeah, I think the building definitely made me feel a certain way. I can't really articulate what it made me feel. It made me feel unsettled, but I also think there was a kind of, the building had such character and it was really old, and that kind of, it did definitely do something to me, yeah. Not consciously, but unconsciously, probably, yeah.
In your role as Angela, the receptionist, you bring a real comedic element to this very tense, dramatic, quite uncomfortable film to watch at times. Can you kind of talk to playing this type of role in a really quite tough going drama at points?
Yeah, the shoot was actually incredibly light, even though the film's quite emotional and dark and uncomfortable. So it was very light, and I just sort of drew on experiences of watching other people that I worked with in hospitality industries growing up. So yeah, I really liked it, actually. It sort of felt, at the time I didn't know I was playing a comedic role. When I saw the film and I heard people laughing, I really thought I really wasn't. I didn't think I was being, funny. I was being totally serious. But it's great that people have found humor in it.
Feels like such a really kind of that British type of character. Lots of like passive aggressiveness, a little bit of pettiness, quite
Yeah.
blunt, and it's almost that type of kind of character like Gen, like that kind of those boomers that kind of Tilda Swinton are playing would look at and think that's what Gen Z are exactly like. It's just there's so many kind of that little touches of sort of quite hostile body language. It reminded me of when I worked in like retail as a student of like you're helping but not really because you don't really want to, and just even things where you were looking at your computer screen where you're like, oh, she's just looking at like Instagram or something like that. Like such a fascinating kind of character to build. It feels very fully realized.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think Joanna kind of Joanna gave me lots of little things, but it was also really freeing at the same time. She would speak about, her passive aggressive interactions or witnessing, I think, family members' interactions with people in the hospitality industry. And then it's interesting because I didn't know too much about the character. It was sort of left really open, which I loved. But then when makeup did my makeup and I saw my costume, I kind of felt a certain way, which then influenced how I played it with the nails on, with the mirror, with the Instagram. It all sort of made me feel a certain way, which I then think helped influence where I sort of went with it. Yeah, yeah, all those little things were. I wish I could take credit, but the makeup and the costume and the way that was designed all helped from the brilliant costume and designers, and it's a real collaboration. Is the more I'm realizing as well, like you can sort of bring your bit, and then when everybody else brings their bit, it sort of helps you as well sort of go further down the line.
How does Hogg kind of work with you as an actor? Obviously, you get a lot of freedom and a lot of space, which must be quite exciting for such a young actor. Like, what is she like in sort of a day-to-day kind of environment with you?
She's the kindest, warmest, most sensitive human being. I think she has such a sensitivity. It's like I almost think of it as like an antenna or whatever you call it. Like her frequency is turned up. She operates on another frequency. She's amazing. She's one of the most interesting, kind, sensitive people I've ever met, and it was a real joy to work with her. Whenever I see her now, it's like, yeah, there's such warmth and fondness. I think she's fantastic. Yeah.
It's quite interesting when you look at her sort of filmography, like she really seems to have quite an eye for young talent as well and really nurturing them. You see that particularly in like the Souvenir films, even young Tom Hiddleston when she worked with him. Has she got a real kind of way with younger people?
I think she's just it's that sensitivity, and I think you can't help but warm to her. And there's an incredible amount of trust I feel from her in you, and in you from her, because it's improvised and the way it's shot, and you're completely, or everybody's in the dark sort of trying to sort of find where they're going. You can't help but be there for each other and trust each other. And I think it's interesting that you said that, because I think she's one of those directors that gives unknown talent a shot, actually. She's more interested in something that isn't perfect, and not saying that being sort of polished and clean and perfect, whatever, is bad, but she's sort of interested in something that's very human. And she's not looking at, who to get in. She's looking at who's right for it and who brings what she needs to the film. And I think that's what makes her different to a lot of people. I think she completely follows her gut. I think she's like a dog with a bone when it comes to knowing what she wants in the best way.
You obviously got to act opposite Tilda Swinton playing two different roles, Julie and her mother Rosalind. Can you kind of break down how these scenes were technically constructed?
I didn't really know a lot what was going on. And certain scenes, Tilda was Tilda as we know her, and then certain scenes she would be in prosthetic makeup. So it would be, I would usually do a scene, say the scenes in the dining room, for instance. I would do the scene with Tilda, young Tilda, and then there would be a couple of hours where Tilda would go off and have prosthetic makeup and come back. But that I wouldn't really be needed for that, because what was so cleverly done was I didn't know sometimes that older Tilda would be sitting there. So I was only speaking to the Tilda that was there. But obviously, narratively, if people see the film, that makes sense. So yeah, it would be sometimes talking to an empty chair. And they were sort of like constructed. I'm trying to think about the way that they were constructed. It would be, Joanna would set it up in the sense that Tilda's having dinner, Julie's having dinner with her mother. You're going to come in and serve them. And then I would come in and it would literally be action. So I would come in with the things that were given and put them down, and then things would just happen. And then Joanna does this thing where she sort of refines. She comes in and goes a little bit further down this path, a little bit less on that path, a little bit more of this narrative. Could you include that bit of narrative and less like this? Or sometimes it was ruder. Be ruder. And I thought, ruder? I thought, I can't be ruder. She's like, no, ruder. I was like, okay.
I'd love to see her like giving that directions, because like anyone that's seen the film will know about your very focused, determined walk and just kick of a bag and stuff. It's one of those things you think, how much of that is direction? How much of that from the actor? It seems like a really interesting blend.
Yeah, the heels, I could not walk in those heels, and I just kind of instinctively went with something. I thought with the uniform, it was quite cut and harsh, and it wasn't sort of very fluid. The makeup was quite hard and a statement makeup. The hair was back, slick, tight. So it kind of felt like there was this sort of restrained kind of feeling to the character, which made me feel a certain way. So I kind of just went with that.
What was it like to work with Tilda herself? What's she like as an actress to work alongside?
The most magical human on the planet. Yeah, she's fantastic, super warm, open, supportive, completely bounced off one another. Just really interested in making each scene as specific and as truthful and as non-performative as possible. And it would really be a conversation between the three of us when we were together, especially Joanna and Tilda, about each moment. And they get really excitable together because they're so interested in what the moment holds and what each bit would mean. And the same with me. It was a constant back and forth, a playfulness, a boundlessness. There was no end. It was fantastic. She's brilliant. Totally obsessed with her. She's great.
One character we never get to see is your boyfriend. What can you tell us about your unseen kind of screen partner?
Yeah, so I have a boyfriend that I'm kind of, it's hinted at in the film that there is a really kind of turbulent and slightly toxic relationship going on there, and that I hope kind of makes people understand where my character's coming from, why she's sometimes a bit rude. That relationship is sort of toxic, but they're both sort of stuck in it.
Did they have like an actor playing that role, or was it just like, hey, we're never going to see this person, get the person from the catering or the best boy or the grip or someone, just chuck them in a car, get them to go around? Or did they actually have someone sort of properly cast?
So Alfie, who was in the crew, his dad Tony is one of the key grip guys, and Alfie worked for his dad, and he had a car that I think that was his car, if I remember rightly. And then he came up to me one day and was like, oh, just to let you know, I've been cast as your boyfriend. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, it was someone in the crew. Yeah. But he loved it. No, he was chuffed. He loved it. We did some improv in the car that wasn't included in the film, but he loved that and he really went for it. He was great to act with. Yeah, I loved it.
Am I correct that it was like a 7-week shoot? So were you there like the whole time? And what was that kind of experience like? Because as I say, you kind of come out in and out of the film. So what was that kind of 7 weeks like as an overall experience?
Yeah, I was there for the whole time, and when I wasn't working, I would sort of do lovely things around North Wales, go for walks and things. But yeah, I was there. It was lovely. I was in quite a bit each week, and because it was such a small cast, it was like going going to work with my other family or something. It was wonderful. It was great to see them. And yeah, I just wish it, in a way, I look back and wish that it wasn't shot in COVID, because then we all would have been able to have a nice drink together or go for dinners together. But yeah, it was great. I was up there for the whole time, and I'd worked up in Theatre Clwyd, I think 6 months before, so I knew the area really well. So it was just nice to be back there.
When did you sort of see the film for the first time? Was it sort of that Venice Film Festival? And what was your reaction to kind of getting the full picture at long last?
I had to sit with myself for a bit after seeing it, to be honest. I was really emotional and terrified at the same time, actually, seeing myself on a screen and not knowing what it would look like and what I would look like and what the film looked like and what the story was. It just, yeah, it was a really anxiety provoking experience, if I'm honest, but completely surreal. And I also feel incredibly lucky to have gone to Venice the first time I was on a set. It's absolute madness. It was an amazing experience to be in that big, huge room where so many amazing films have been screened and so many fantastic people have sat there, and to be sitting there and to be in a film with two women that I think are fantastic, and Joseph as well, who plays the groundskeeper, Bill. Yeah, it was a moment I think that I will hold on to for the rest of my human existence. Yeah.
As you mentioned, there was that surprise of seeing people viewing your character as quite comedic and so on. How was that kind of reaction a bit of a surprise, really, to you? Or was it one of those ones, once you saw that full picture, it was like, oh, that makes sense? I always like when you hear from people, they're like, I thought I was in one film and another person thought they were in another. And it just makes for such an interesting audience experience when they're watching it.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that, because I think that's exactly what I felt. Like, I didn't know what type, I kind of knew a little bit about the film, but I didn't know what type of film I was in. And I feel like my character is definitely in a different film to Julie. Yeah, it was nice actually to hear people laughing. And I couldn't really remember it because it was shot 2 years prior. And then when I did see it, I thought, God, I'm awfully rude. I don't remember being that rude. It was a very odd experience. Yeah, I feel like I couldn't remember a lot about it, to be honest. So I felt like, in a way, I was seeing it and processing it with fresh eyes.
And it seemed to kind of resonate because you made it onto the sort of the long list for the BIFA Awards for your performance. What was that like for, as you say, first time on a kind of film set, and, people recognizing your talent so early on? What was that like to find out you'd been made that list?
Madness. My agent told me, and I was walking down the street and I just started screaming. I just thought it was absolute madness. A really lovely moment, and yeah, it's another pinch me one, to be honest. I feel very lucky, and the category for that, when I looked around, I've seen some of the films of the people in that category, and I just was honoured to be noticed, to be honest. It was, yeah, a really lovely thing.
Does kind of being involved in a film like The Eternal Daughter like help with your future career, having that on IMDb, etc.? How much does an impact does a film like this have kind of going forward?
I think working with Joanna is definitely gold dust, because I think she's such an artist, and her films are, I think, almost like paintings to me, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think it's definitely helping my career a lot, and I'm really grateful. And I think it's the type of work you want to do, and I think working with Joanna, it's a really high-end quality piece of work that she's producing. It's real art, I feel, and I feel so privileged to have been a part of that. And I feel like you almost get taken a bit more seriously when you do work like that, I feel, so far, because of who Joanna is and the type of work that she's doing, and she's so appreciated. So yeah, I feel very lucky. I feel like it's definitely helping my career at the moment. Yeah.
And it feels like the BFI have really got behind it. It feels like it was such a long wait for it to finally come out here in the UK. But when you kind of think of it like these winter nights, it feels like the perfect time to go in the dark to see it come out of it. And the BFI seem to be really kind of pushing the film, which seems really exciting. We had Joanna Hogg up here in Edinburgh as part of like a tour for the film. It seems like something that it's not being what you see sometimes with some great indie films is like flash in a pan and it's gone. Whereas this one, they seem to be really behind it, which is exciting.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant, and the BFI are fantastic. And I think Joanna's got lots of, the more I meet people in the industry, Joanna's got lots of fans. I think there is a real market for people who love her films, and she's really appreciated and loved. And yeah, hopefully lots of people see it and it gets the response that it deserves.
Obviously, A24 distributed this film in America, I think, much earlier in the year. But what was it like to have worked on an A24 film, especially one that's got a Martin Scorsese production behind it as well? That must be quite surreal too.
Very surreal. I love A24. If someone told me a couple of years back that I'd be in an A24 film, I would have been like, cool, my life's pretty made. And then to have Martin Scorsese as exec producer is absolute madness. And then my friend actually sent me a podcast of Joanna and Martin in America last year speaking about the film. And he's talking about me and Tilda, and it just absolutely blew my mind that Martin Scorsese's like, yeah, they really play off each other beautifully. To be honest, it was just madness. I just literally freaked out for ages after reading it, because obviously he's helps, I think, watches Joanna's edits a lot. It's madness. I think he's amazing, and for him to be exec on this, and I think it's really amazing that he's such an amazing human being, in the sense that he gives so much to independent film, and he sees so much in Joanna, and rightly so, and he wants to support that. Yeah.
There's a brilliant, I think it was only on the American version of The Souvenir, but there was a brilliant making of documentary. And there's like Scorsese just talking about how he met Hogg and his views on her films and work. It was just wonderful. And I love that about him too, where it's just that he loves the craft and what he does for independent films made by women and stuff. His name really carries a lot of weight, which is just fantastic to see and so on. We're so lucky to have him.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And I looked on his IMDb the other day, and he's execing on like 14 upcoming films. And it is just, one, how does he sleep? How does he eat? How does he function? For one, is what I thought. And then two, I just thought, I hope, it's, we need more people like him, because I think he is a true master. I think he's remarkable. We're very, very, very lucky to have him on the planet, I think.
You mentioned you're obviously a fan of A24, much like us. What are some of the highlights of their filmography for yourself?
I think my favorite film that really got me thinking about A24 is Midsummer with Florence Pugh. Absolutely, I love Ari Aster. Absolutely fantastic. There's loads, but I feel like I'm trying to think. What have I love Past Lives that's just come out. To be honest, the list is absolutely endless. I think they've just got it right. They back really brilliant stories and really important stories. And yeah, a pinch me moment. If I could do, I'd love to be in A24 films for the rest of my entire life. But yeah, I feel very lucky to have been in my first film and it to be an A24 film. Yeah, amazing.
So what's coming next for yourself?
So I just finished filming a really cool TV series. It's going to be on ITV, and that's with Martin Clunes, and it's called Out There, and it's about county drug lines, and it's about class, it's about trauma, and essentially this new way of drug dealing that's seeping into all over the UK, but particularly in rural communities. My mum works in a school, and she's dealing with five children there who are being literally taken by these gangs to sell drugs. So it's a very real problem, and I think lots of people don't know. It's not really in the public eye or anything at the moment. So it's a really brilliant script, very dark, but fantastic, and definitely a story that I think needs to be told. So that's hopefully next. That's hopefully coming out, I think, next year. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'll have to keep my eyes up on that one. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I've really, really appreciated learning about your experience.
No, thanks for having me.